today's tailoring class. So in today's class you're going to learn how to do the double welt pocket. I guess you might have seen it in a few garments, in skirts and in your trousers and your jackets. So we're going to learn how to do this pocket today, the double welt pocket. So the tools you're going to be needing for the project will be your scissors or your cutting edge. You need your ruler. You also need a measuring tape. You would need a tailor's chalk, some pins, and then of course your sewing machine to get the project done. You would also need a pencil to draw in a few things, and I'll be using a pencil in this project more than the tailor's chalk because I would want my markings to be visible for you to see. Okay, so let's get on with the project. So this is going to be the main fabric for the project, and as usual we work in swatches. So for the main fabric I'm going to be working with 10 by 11 inches of the main fabric, and when you've cut down you're also going to need 2 welt pieces, and the size of the welt piece is 1 inch by 6.5 inches. So 1 inch by 6.5 inches. You're going to need 2 of that, and then you'd also need your pocket facing piece. So the pocket facing piece is 2.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Okay, so you'd also need your interfacing for the welt pieces. So you're going to be ironing this onto the welt pieces to give it some structure before we use it. And then you'd also need your split piece. This goes at the back of where you'll be making your slit for the welt pocket. Okay, we'll come to that. So the split piece is also 6.5 inches long by 2.5 inches in width. Now when you've done that, you're going to need 2 pockets. Okay, you need your top pocket bag and your bottom pocket bag. So your top pocket bag, that should be 6.5 inches by 4.5, and then the bottom pocket bag, that will be 6.5 inches by 5.5 inches in width. Okay, usually the pocket bags are made from very light sheer fabrics so that they don't become too heavy in your garment when you fixed them. Okay, now let's get on with everything if we've done our cutting. So this is my main fabric. So from the edge of my fabric coming down, I'm going to be measuring 3 inches down. From the edge I'm just going to measure 3 inches down, and that's what I'm going to be doing my line. I'm going to be doing a slit line of 5.5 inches. So 5.5 inches line is what I'm drawing in. Okay, so from the center of it I'm drawing 5.5 inches slit line. Now you have to make sure that your lines and your points are at the right places. Okay, now from this point going up, I'm going to measure 1/4 of an inch up and 1/4 of an inch down. Okay, so I'm going to measure 1/4 of an inch marking up and 1/4 of an inch marking down. I'm going to carry on with a few points of my 1/4 inch up and down so that I can draw an equal line across it. Okay, so I measured 1/4 of an inch for my center line up and down, and I drew my line across. Now from this edge here I'm going to measure 1/2 an inch in and put a point there. So let's do that measurement now and place our marking there. 1/2 an inch and then another 1/2 an inch. Okay, now from this point I'm going to be connecting this point to this corner here, and then I'll do the same at this end here. and then at this end as well. Okay, so you should have it looking like this. Now the next step is to iron our interfacing at the reverse side of our fabric. So the interfacing should be ironed at the back of the slit. Okay, to be sure of where the slit is, you can make a crease at the center line here, and this tells me that my interfacing should be somewhere here. Okay, and the interfacing, you have to put the shiny part at the back of the fabric, and then that is where we are going to iron it. So I'm going to press this down, and then I'll come back to the next step. So I've ironed my fusible interfacing at the back of my fabric. Now my iron was a bit hot, so I bent it a little bit, but that wouldn't spoil the project, so I'll still carry on without it. And the next thing from there is to iron the fusible interfacing at the back of my welt piece. So I'm going to be ironing it the right side on the back, and then I'll iron it there. I'm going to place in the right side of the interfacing is a shiny part of it, and that is what is going to go at the back of my welt piece, and I'm going to iron that as well. Okay, so whilst I was at the iron, I did another step. So after ironing your interfacing onto your welt piece, you're going to fold it into 2 equal halves, and then you press it down as well. Now from there on, what to do next is to measure or draw a line from the fold coming in 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to be measuring 1/4 of an inch from my fold line coming in 1/4 of an inch. I'll put that marking across it so that when I draw my line, I know that I'm having a straight, perfect straight 1/4 of an inch line, because that's going to be our stitch line. Okay, so I'm going to draw a 1/4 of an inch straight line like that. I'm going to do the same for this as well. 1/4 of an inch fold line coming in from my fabric phrase a lot, but I'll still do. So I'm going to do the same on the second one as well. So now that we have our welt pieces prepared, what you're going to do is the raw edge of your welt piece is what is coming to be aligned to the center of your line. So I'm going to align that to the center line here. Sorry, the center line here. That is where I'm going to align the raw edge. Okay, it has to be placed on it perfectly and equally like that. Okay, so I've just lined up my welt piece along the middle line. What I'll be doing next is to stitch this line in place, but before then I want to transfer the edge line onto this here. Okay, so this edge line is what I'm going to transfer onto the garment, so I know where my stitch line is going to start from and where it's going to end. I'm going to transfer this onto this as well, so I know exactly where I'm going to start stitching from and where I'm going to end it. I'm going to do the same to the opposite side. Make sure they are meeting in the center beautifully. Pin them in place. I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place like I did the other one. I've gone ahead to transfer the line, edge line, to this bit and to this bit as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is to stitch on this line from here to here. I have to make sure that I'm ending exactly at this point and this point, and the same on the other side as well. Remember to back your stitches before you carry on. When you finish, you tack your stitch as well. So I'm going to go to the machine, stitch it in place, and come back, and then we move on to the next step. Now that we've stitched on our welt pieces, the next thing to do is to create our split. Okay, so the center line we had earlier on, I'm just going to make a split, and then I'll cut it through to these triangles at the corner. So to start off, I'm just going to fold it into two like this. I'm going to try and lift these two up, fold it into two like that. Make a slit in there to start off, then I'll open it up and cut it through. So I'm going to cut it to this point. That is where I'll end it, and then I'll open it up to my triangle this way. And then I'll do the same on this end as well. And I'll move over to cut through this line, end at the point there. Cut through to this bit, and then cut through to this bit too. And then now we have it. Now for the next thing, I'm just going to turn this bit in here, pushing the edges all in. I'm going to go ahead and press it down for you to see how it looks like, and then the back looking like that. Okay, I'm just going to give it a press, and then we take it from there. Okay, so I've done the welt pocket. I'm going to carry on and run a top stitch on all the sides of the welt we've created before we go on and stitch in the pocket bags and then the pocket facing piece. So I ran my stitch very close to the edge of the fold, beautifully on the round to finish it off. The next thing I'm going to do now is to connect my pocket facing to my top pocket bag. Okay, so the pocket facing is going to be connected to the top pocket bag like that, and I'm going to be stitching at 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I finished stitching my pocket facing to my top pocket bag. Now usually what the pocket facing does is when you have the pocket facing of the same fabric as your main garment or whatever you want it to be, it looks beautiful. Just in case that bit is open, you still see the same fabric and you don't see anything else. And I think that presentation is much beautiful than when you open it at this bit and then you straight away you see a different fabric. But for this, because my pocket facing fabric matches with my welt slip, I think that is beautiful. So I'm just going to attach the top pocket now back to the top of my welt piece here. I left one step. We should have stitched in dart legs, but for this one the dart legs have aligned beautifully, so that wasn't a problem. But we should have stitched our dart legs, this triangle, to our welt slips before doing our top stitch. So as you can see, I've attached my top pocket bag to the welt area, and I'm going to stitch that place down. If it's possible, you can run through this stitch again, but if you cannot, you can still stitch it down very close to that stitch, catching it on. So I'm going to do that now. So I've done it for this end. I've attached the pocket bag to it here. Okay, I'm going to flip it up and then attach the bottom pocket bag as well. So the right side of the fabric is what is going to be holding on to the seam allowance. And then just like we attached the first one, we are going to do the same as well, and then run a stitch across it here. I've done the top and I've done the bottom for the bottom bag. We're going to just stitch the sides together, and then the bottom bit here, and then the sides. I'm just doing 3 sides here, 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 lifting it up like that to stitch the sides Okay, so it's all been stitched beautifully. At this point, you can just trim around your fabric, your pocket bag. You can trim the seam allowance down if that is too big for you. Just trim it down. And there you have it. So there you have it. You have your welt pocket with your pocket bag. Place beautifully inserted. Hope you enjoyed today's project. If you did, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share as well. As usual, leave us a comment. If you live in Nottingham and you'd like to be part of our free workshops for unemployed women living in Nottingham or women on low income, you can visit our website on www.skilledhandsorganization.org and you would get more information there. You can also send us an email at skills.hands.org@gmail.com, or you can give us a call on 07486 876873. Until we meet again in our next video, have a lovely day.